Rejoice, Mountaineer Nation. We won. Got revenge. This one felt personal, not only for head coach Rich Rodriguez, but for Mountaineer Nation after the loss last week to Ohio, feeling slight stings, I feel like, from 17 years ago in 2007, but I feel like it was more so from 2022 and 2024 that made a difference. But our beloved Mountaineers came away with a classic in the 108th edition of the Backyard Brawl, 31-24 in overtime in a game that was just a complete freaking roller coaster. You were on your edge of your seat from beginning to end and everything in between. We had West Virginia stealing the momentum. We had Pitt stealing the momentum at one point in time. Felt as if West Virginia was going to lose this game by 10 points, only for Pitt to, succumb to their fears in head coach Pitt, Pat Narduzzi, in a call that we will talk about. For sure an analysis of this contest, but Nico Marchiol and the West Virginia offense willing this game to victory after capitalizing in overtime, and West Virginia's defense played awesome for 4 quarters. So thanks for tuning in for another edition of Fox on West Virginia Mountaineer Sports. This was an enjoyable one for a fan. Before we get into a breakdown and analysis, I feel as if we need to take another pause here for a quick second because a Pitt Panther is down on the field, and we're going to have to get him looked at for a potential injury. Nah, I'm just kidding. All right, let's get down into the breakdown of this game. First and foremost, I want to give a shout out to Mountaineer Nation. You were awesome. Being there, a few hours early before the game, partaking in the tailgating process and all the fun that was. Man, everybody showed out. Gold, blue, striped the stadium. Tailgate parking lots were packed. I think some people had a little bit too much fun pregame. It was hot. The people who sat in the sun for nearly 3 quarters, God bless you. I couldn't do it for much more than a half. Had to move our seats over onto the Mountaineer side of the Let's Go chant, where it was a little bit cooler, thankfully, that the sun wasn't directly on you. And this game, like I said, this game was just from beginning to end crazy. And it was just an enjoyable one, thankfully, that West Virginia came out with a victory. So starting it off, I think maybe the best way that I can is kind of touch on some of the highlights from the first half, because the second half was really where the game kind of turned to Pitt, then back to West Virginia, and we got to talk about it. So in the first half, I think some of the big picture highlights from it was, well, first and foremost, the very first play. West Virginia could have capitalized on incredible field position, and given all that we saw the week prior against Ohio, and knowing that possessions in enemy territory were going to be of the utmost importance, with expecting how's West Virginia going to put up yards, how's West Virginia going to put up points in this one against Pitt's defense. On the very first play, I don't know if there was just mishandling of the ball by quarterback Eli Holstein, or he was just shook by this was the largest crowd in which Eli Holstein has played against in college. Raucous environment, crowd was loud. And the other thing that I noticed very early on in this contest is Pitt's offensive line was just not very good, especially in pass protection. The play calling, a little bit suspect. And the other thing was Holstein was just a bit erratic. And if it was just he took a beating throughout this game. You saw, I watched this game back, recorded it after I got home, watched the fourth quarter last night, watched some other key points that I want to talk about. And again, that fourth quarter, he's got a cotton up his nose. You could see it's bruised in here by his orbital bone. He took a beating. So whether he was just mentally, and in the back of his mind, not confident because his offensive line couldn't protect him. But there were some receivers open that he just missed. Then there were some guys that he just underthrew. Threw for 300 yards, but still ended up coming up with a 28.5 quarterback rating on this day. And also, limited opportunities because of the injury to Desmond Reed at running back. I thought that was absolutely huge for West Virginia, knocking Reed out in the second quarter and having Pitt forcing Pitt into switching to Jules Goff completely threw them off. It wasn't that Goff was necessarily a bad running back. It's just there's so much of this offense that is predicated on Des Reed and his abilities to create things in space, similarly to like West Virginia and Jaheim White. So that was just a change for them. And I just think all of this, being on the road, power for opponent, loud, crazy atmosphere, your offensive line's just kind of going into a shell of itself, your quarterback is all over the place. West Virginia's defense was awesome. Really stepped up numerous times throughout this game. In the first, I think Holstein was not the same kind of mobile quarterback that Parker Navarro was. Whereas Navarro he was going to drop back, and he had an internal clock in his head. If somebody wasn't open within what felt like a second and a half, he was taking off, and he had good enough speed, like I said last week, to beat defenders one-on-one. I think West Virginia's defensive line stepped up in this contest, the disguised blitzes. That West Virginia's defense came to play. Zach Alley is worth every single dollar that West Virginia is paying him this season, and you got that kind of an effort even without Jamori Robinson, who apparently practiced all this past week, thought he was cleared to play. He even tweets earlier this week, "If God wills it," in Arabic. So you thought Jamori Robinson was going to be out there, but then picture surface right before kickoff. He's in street clothes, got his jersey on, but no pads. So it's like, oh crap, how are we going to create pressure? Well, West Virginia did it in a multitude of ways. The other big thing that I wrote down in my notes that I was keeping as the game was going on, Ty Edwards, baby. There are three things in football that in the most heterosexual way that I love about players. And I think if you follow my channel, you get this. I love 300 to 320 pound plus defensive linemen. I love Australian punters. And I love big running backs. And that was the catalyst. He was the key that West Virginia needed. And West Virginia's offensive line, I'll give them this. They got a better push against Pitt with that defensive line, that front seven in the run game. Pass protection, still a work in progress. I think we're going to talk about that. That can be a theme moving forward because I think we got some things to work on in pass protection. I think the bye week's going to be pivotal for that, looking ahead. But oh my gosh, so much better of a push offense, on the offensive line. And then you had frickin' Ty Edwards, who is 200 and 225 pounds, and he was going to hit dudes, create yards after contact, and pick up first downs and chunk plays that you needed. Long of 27 on this day, had enough speed on the outside to get first downs. He's not C.J. Donaldson, but he is, I would say a poor man C.J. Donaldson, and he looks great. Great replacement so far. So 25 carries, 141 yards on the day for Ty Edwards, and 3 touchdowns in short yardage situations. Freaking awesome. So and you know what? The slander against Clay Ash by me is gone. I'm putting it to bed. Apologies to Clay Ash. While I still don't think that Clay Ash is a RB1 in the way that Ty Edwards can be for this team, Clay Ash, 12 carries, 37 yards in the day, had a long of 9, did a lot of mop-up duty in certain situations, had a pivotal catch late in the game by Nico Marchiol stepping up in the pocket, getting hit. Nico throws across his body to the sideline for an open Clay Ash. He catches it for a huge first down. Clay Ash, you're the freaking man. Way to go. Awesome day by the former walk-on, now true sophomore. The other thing from the first half that I absolutely loved and talked about this as one of my 3 keys to victory was that West Virginia was going to have to do something surprising. Whether it was a fake, which we didn't see, whether it was just something that Rich Rodriguez had not shown through 2 games. And on one hand, but this played itself in the second half, the jumbo massive package I think they talked about during the after post-game press conference, which West Virginia brought in 8 linemen into a package on the goal line. No, was the fake reverse pass open to Grayson Barnes. That was freaking awesome. There in the second quarter, picking up a huge first down that led to the first touchdown for West Virginia in the first half. Getting a turnover in the first half, I felt like was justice for the targeting that went against Ashton Woods. I'm not going to make a big deal out of that play, even though I don't think that it was targeting, and I still think targeting is the worst call in all of sports, that you should get, like a red card and a yellow card in soccer. First time offense for something that's borderline, that's not completely agreed, totally, if it's just a bang football play, in which that was on Holstein, who I swear has a helmet that just doesn't fit right. Every time he gets hit, his helmet shakes as if he's getting face masked. But getting the interception, I felt like was due process for West Virginia needing that. In the end zone, Darian Lewis, I wish he would have just went down, wouldn't have tried to return it, but he was amped, he was juiced, adrenaline was pumping, wanted to run it back. But led to poor field position for West Virginia, which I felt like was a theme throughout this game, but definitely during the first half. That's why West Virginia couldn't get anything going in the first half, it felt like, because they had to go and, go 3/4 of the field or longer. For Nico Marchiol. And Caleb Junko, really good punter for Pitt. I know he ended up having some touchbacks that he probably wishes that he had back, but was a really good punter. So, okay, let's talk into the third quarter. And this is what, I'll say first and foremost. If you want to give Scotty Fox a series, Rich Rodriguez, totally understand it. You got the ball to start out the half. You had the lead. But, his first series gets a 3-and-out, punts. West Virginia's defense, playing absolutely well at this point in time. They get a 5-and-out, comes back out onto the field. You give him another series. That's where I was just like, what are we doing here? What is with the Scotty Fox experience? But what do you know? Ty Edwards rips off an 18-yard gain. And then on 2nd and 10, on the first series, let's go back to the first series, not get ahead of myself. He had a wide open Jeff Weimer down the sideline and just missed him. Just way too much juice on the throw, overthrew him. Then comes back and you hit the Justin Smith-Brown that he was able to, catch and run for 56 yards. What great speed. It was a guy I talked about during the summer that did it really all for South Carolina State. And if Rodney Gallagher didn't step up in the way that he did and had his best game, I know the Kansas game last year, he had the game-winning touchdown. If he didn't play the way that he played, Justin Smith-Brown would be the wide receiver that I'd say, West Virginia needs to get him on the field more frequently. And I think we will, moving forward. Because he's got deadly speed, y'all. I mean, he was putting those, Pitt defensive backs, in the dust. So, gets pulled down by Cruz Brookins at the 3, but that sets up good enough field position that on 3 plays, thanks to a Pitt penalty offsides on 3rd and 2, just enough that Ty Edwards gets to the goal line even after reviewing the play, calling the field stands. West Virginia goes up 14-3. Then, Pitt comes back, gets all the way down, thanks to, hold on, let me see here. Oh, this was the big play to Poppy Williams. Good decision, good pass on Holstein on this one. Poppy Williams, I think, coming into this contest was Pitt's leading receiver for the season, even though I thought Kenny Johnson was the guy. West Virginia ends up getting, 11-4. They get the 2-point conversion. Really close call there on the review, but just looked as if he had the 1 foot with maybe a centimeter or less between his foot and the back of the end zone. They get the 2-point conversion, 14-11. So this is where my thought process is, okay, you've now given Scotty Fox 2 series. Nico did nothing in the first half that warranted being on the sidelines. So he throws the interception, double coverage to Kyle Lewis, and that's where I was just like, what are we doing here? I I want to talk about the defense here, but kind of to stay on this same point in time, in the same theme. Why did he get the opportunity on the next series after the interception, not turning back to Nico? I didn't understand this decision by Rich Rodriguez, especially after Pitt, because of the placement of the interception, was already inside West Virginia's red zone. They at least got 3 points out of it, and they did, to tie this game up at 14-14. Why was the decision by Rich Rodriguez to stay with Scotty Fox there? I thought, given the way that the rest of the game played out, Nico being the savior and winning this game, I have to be critical of Coach Rodriguez there in that decision to stick with Scotty Fox. I didn't think that was the right call then. If that's something, again, not for this game. I heard, Mike Ostie, God bless him, asking that question about your decision and management of your quarterbacks, and Rodriguez, because the room was freaking clapping in the post-game press conference. That was a little odd to me listening to that. Like, I thought the media is supposed to be a little bit more objective, but anyway, maybe there were other people who weren't media that were in that press conference, so I'm not going to criticize the media any much, but asked that question, and he said, I'm the head coach, and I can decide on whoever I want to play in this game. If I want to put you out there, I can do so. Well, then that is my First Amendment right as a West Virginia fan and American to criticize the decisions that you make. And do that against frickin' UCF. Do that against Colorado. Houston might be a little bit better, so I can't say them. Or even, these next couple of games, if you want to do that against Kansas, Utah, BYU. I think Scotty Fox can be the future of this program. Maybe not in 2026, maybe 2027 if Nico decides to stick around after this year. He does have another year's worth of eligibility. But I think Scotty Fox has definitely a role in the immediate future, short-term future, and long-term future of this program. But against frickin' Pitt, when you have a multi-score lead, why? Why did you do... Oh. Anyway, thankfully, West Virginia won. But I just got to say, I was ready to bash my head against, a pillar in Milan Puskar Stadium because of that. Thankfully, defense awesome here. After the first interception that Lewis came down with... Oh, wait, we got to take a quick pause because Lewis went down with an injury. So we got to take a 5-second commercial break here, I feel like, because another Pitt player is down, so another injury situation. West Virginia's defense stands on its head. Pitt gets all the way down to the West Virginia 7, and this is where I just watched this before I came on and recorded this. So, yeah, it was Justin Holmes, tight end. Jake Overman was the one who was out with an injury at tight end. Justin Holmes comes in, holds Eddie Kelly on the rush left. Eddie Kelly's trying to make a play, can't get to him, gets that penalty call. That pushes Pitt back to a 3rd and 12 situation from the WVU 16, and then a big sack for a loss. Fred Perry getting after, intentional grounding called against Holstein, pushes back Pitt to the WVU 28. So Pitt started the drive at the West Virginia 14. Not only did you not let them advance to get 7 points, you pushed them back 14 yards. That was awesome by the West Virginia defense, but Trey Butkowski, pretty good kicker, freshman. I think that's a player that that Pitt can hang their heads on. That like, man, we got something here in special teams as a pretty good kicker. So he came through 14-14. That's again, next series, 3rd and 14. Looked as if Scotty Fox just threw it straight to Braylon Lovelace. My opinion, shouldn't have been in there first and foremost, shouldn't have been in there. Again, West Virginia gives Pitt favorable field position inside their red zone, but the defense stands on their head, pushes Pitt back. Couple of penalties killed Pitt because Pitt got down to the West Virginia 15 on a 3rd and 1. They weren't set. Just watch this again. It was called on Keith Gouveia on the offensive line. It could have been on multiple players. They weren't set. Pushed them back to a 3rd and 6 situation. Then the next snap, clear false start again. Jeffrey Percy late in the late in the play clock, pushes Pitt back to a 3rd and 11, incomplete pass by Holstein to do Span, and they are forced to kick a field goal. So 17-14 into the fourth quarter. This is when West Virginia went to Jalen Henderson. And again, this was an opportunity I felt like you could bring Nico Marchiol back in, but instead, not Scotty Fox, Jalen Henderson, where I'll give Henderson like maybe the game. So 14, hold on, let me get exactly the time. I think I kept this in my notes. 4th and 3 on, oh wait, excuse me, no, I'm sorry. 4th and 1 at the West Virginia 34, and Rodriguez decides to go for it on a tush-push play. That was ballsy. You're down 3, you're nearing like the middle third of the fourth quarter, and you decide to go for it. If you miss there, holy crap, that could be the game the other way. But instead, West Virginia advances, gets all the way to a 4th and 3 situation. And what I will say about that 4th and 3 situation in which Henderson was kind of knocked by his own man, Sean Fitzsimmons, I think kind of backed into it, was Kimo Makaneole at left guard. Or was that Walter Young-Bear? I sometimes forget the two. I would have liked West Virginia there to call a timeout. You pick up, so it went from a first down to with a penalty back to a 2nd and 15, completion to Grayson Barnes, completion to Clay Ash for 8 yards, 4th and 3. You've already gone for it on 4th down once. You're just over midfield. Why not call? Because it was a late at the very last second in the play clock, and West Virginia doesn't call a timeout. I would have liked that there instead. Rodriguez should have called it had not Henderson called it. But instead, he gets sacked, turnover on downs, and this is where the tide started to turn to Pitt. Pitt starts to go on a bit of a drive, and then 2nd and 4 at the West Virginia 4, Marshawn Oxley gets called with this BS unnecessary roughness call, sacking Holstein. Like, I didn't know what to say about it. I don't know. I didn't know we were playing pickleball out there. Like, if this is going to be a continuous theme, we saw kind of a weird call in the Ohio game last week where I forget which West Virginia defender hit Navarro, didn't knock him down, and was still called for a pass interference. If targeting's the worst call in sports, this new roughing the passer penalty that's come to college football, I didn't know Tom Brady was out there, It's ugly, y'all. It's really, really gross. But then Pitt made West Virginia pay on the very next play. Really good play design, I thought, by Cade Bell. Gets Poppy Williams go on a crossing pattern with another receiver. Kind of got behind Cade Tarnew. Holstein hits him easily for the touchdown. When Pitt went up 24-14, West Virginia 9-23, you just thought, uh-oh. Like, what are we doing? And is this it? So, thank goodness, back into the game came Nico Marchiol. Couple of first downs, picked up, gets all the way. This is the play that I'm talking about that was early about Clay Ash. 6:43 left to play, 3rd and 7 at the Pitt 23. He steps up in the pocket, throws across field to Clay Ash, catches it for 15 yards down to the Pitt 8. 3rd and 3, and then 4th and 3. On 3rd and 3, went Clay Ash. I think they were just kind of setting up for where do you want it. Cade Hensley didn't want it on the right hash, centered it, kicked the field goal, 7-point game at that point in time. Then next, this is where the tide completely turned, or like back for West Virginia after thinking it was going to be a Pitt victory. So this point in time, 24-17, Pitt gets the ball with 5 minutes left to play on the 25. Kike Tarnew gets called for an unnecessary roughness penalty. Okay, so 1st and 10 at the West Virginia 43, rush for 1 to Jules Goff, rush for 2 to Jacarian Turner, and then Turner catches another short completion from Eli Holstein. So 4th and 4 at the WVU 37, you would think here, and get Pitt didn't have the momentum here. They were capitalizing on those short fields with field goals, and then again the one penalty on Oxley. So Pitt in the second half couldn't run the ball. And they again, Holstein was a bit erratic. The offensive line wasn't giving him good enough protection. So I get where this was a hard decision for Pat Narduzzi to make. But he channeled his inner Neil Brown. And again, this was a little bit tougher of a call, I feel like, than Brown having to on 4th and an inch with C.J. Donaldson, who'd run over 120 yards at this point in time in 2022 to get the first down, win the game. But 4th and 4 at the West Virginia 37, you pick up a first down there. You might be able, 3 minutes still left to go. You get into what field goal territory, go up potentially 10 again. You could win the ball game. But instead, Narduzzi, I'd love to know what his decision was on that one, like his rationale for that. I didn't listen to his press conference. I really didn't care. Excuse me. But anyway, channels his inner Neil Brown, goes for the delay of game penalty, punts it back to West Virginia. West Virginia had to go 87 freaking yards with 2 minutes and 47 seconds with the 2-minute timeout plus one more timeout. So this is where Rodney Gallagher completely stepped up, I felt like, for this program. Caught a couple of really important balls. I think maybe the most important one was to Grayson Barnes on 3rd and 9 at the West Virginia 25, trying to get something going. Markey hit Barnes right over down the seam and kind of a Tampa 2 look. West Virginia gets another hard-earned first down for 2 yards at the Pitt 17. This is where the clock's really starting to tick. Inside 30 seconds, West Virginia gets a really important pass interference call on Cam Vaughn by Rashawn Murray. Just absolutely mugged Vaughn. No chance at getting any sort of a situation. Couldn't really play with Vaughn. Just too talented of a receiver, too long, so have to go in there and mug him to try and get the incompletion. So West Virginia, 1st and 2, broken up. And this is one where you might have wanted a call, but you don't get it. It's not the end of the world, but going to Rodney Gallagher, Braylon Lovelace makes a play there that isn't called. You're okay with it. 2nd and 2, fake on the RPO, little jump pass like Tim Tebow inside to Grayson Barnes, comes up with a catch with the defender on him. This was really a coming out party, I feel like, for Grayson Barnes in this contest, in addition to Rodney Gallagher. Excuse me, but those two guys, I feel like, really stepped up in this contest catching the ball. So they were awesome. West Virginia ties the game with the extra point, sends it into overtime. And this is where I want to check the official stats here as I'm doing this. Who won the toss? I guess I don't know who won the toss, but I loved that West Virginia got the ball first. I don't know. I'm one of these kinds of people that I like the ball first. It kind of is a little bit dependent upon how the way the game's going and the way West Virginia's offense responded on the previous 2 series with Nico Marchiol having all the momentum. I think you want the ball first there. So pick up a couple of huge first down, 4th and 1 at the Pitt 4. You get a first down, and then ending up having to go with that massive jumbo package that West Virginia went with 8 offensive linemen. West Virginia goes up 7, and then unbelievable defense in overtime. Stuff Jules Goff for a loss of 1. Incompletion by Eli Holstein. Holstein sack for a loss of 9. So at 4th and 20, you just thought there's absolutely no freaking way, the way West Virginia's defense, that they're going to come up with it. Even if he would have completed the pass on 4th and 20, it was a check down, again, that he overthrew by 10 yards. But even if he hits that guy, what are you doing? You're not even, I feel like you're not even giving your team a chance to win the game by making that pass attempt. But anyway, who cares? Didn't matter. Went innocently incomplete to the turf. West Virginia comes away with a freaking victory. So, oh my gosh, the roller coaster of emotions. Like, let's talk about it in totality now. Almost a half hour in, 28 first downs. I know that included overtime, but that's kind of West Virginia's goal as a team. They've said from the RMU game, you want to try and get to 25. West Virginia winning the rushing total, 174 to 46. And again, a lot of that had to do with Des Reed getting knocked out early in this contest. So that was huge. And again, the stepping up of Ty Edwards in this ballgame. Credit Rich Rodriguez, running backs coach Larry Porter for deciding, hey, we're going to go with this guy. He's going to be our horse. Let him lead us to victory. And the sprinkling in of Clay Ash, kind of a multi-purpose back out there, rushing and receiving. Excuse me. And then in totality, West Virginia threw for 260 yards, most of that in combination between the one Justin Smith-Brown reception by Scotty Fox and then 192 yards by Nico Marchiol with a touchdown on the day, long of 34. He was incredibly efficient, 19 of 25 on the day. And I think just that's my bigger picture thing here is this is the battle now that Rodriguez is going to, and us fans, thankfully we got the win. I'm very happy to get the win. But now moving forward, Rodriguez, if he's going to continue to go with this three-man quarterback rotation, we've yet to see Max Brown get involved, and I know he says he at least wants to get Khalil Wilkins in there, but there's just not enough game to go around. There's only one ball, and you're trying to win games while getting these guys playing time, and you're going to face stiffer competition. Kansas is not a slouch. Utah's obviously ranked. BYU, you're going to be on the road. So you've now got this Backyard Brawl win. And if that's the one win that you want for this season. Of course, I'd love for this team to make a bowl game. I hope this team can win 8 games, like I said in my prediction show in August. But there's going to have to be a balance, I feel like, between competing to try and win ball games when, to me, I think it's Nico Marchiol's team. I think this is his team. He's been in the program. This is now his 4th year. Garrett Green was afforded these opportunities. I'm trying to think of anybody who was there. He's now. I tried looking this up late on the drive home last night. I don't think that there's a quarterback in WVU's program history who's beat Pitt 3 times. To even win twice, you have to be in rare air. Pat White did it twice. Geno Smith did it twice. Major Harris did it twice. Oliver Luck did it twice. Now Nico Marchiol's done it twice. And really, beyond maybe the first half or so, and again, the game kind of changed weirdly last week on the road against a decent Ohio team when Jaheim White exited the ballgame, that team just wasn't prepared for, was a bit shook, and still, again, trying to evolve, trying to gel, develop some sort of continuity. I just think moving forward, if you're trying to play this season for, experience and getting some of these younger guys involved, I think that's a bit of a disservice to this defense. I mean, we saw that in 2019 when the defense stepped up time and time again, only for Austin Kendall to just fall flat on his face and the West Virginia offense not put up enough points. And then when West Virginia was at home facing Jet Duffy against Texas Tech, mutinied the West Virginia offense, and Texas Tech just completely ran over West Virginia. So this is going to be an interesting thing, I feel like, to follow for the rest of the season, is how is Rodriguez going to play to win, I feel like, with Nico Marchiol, or play for sometimes the experience and getting Scotty Fox involved in the game. And I just don't know yet about Jalen Henderson. Again, pivotal first downs that he picked up. But I have not seen anything just yet. Even at one point in time, he took off for a run, looked really good, saw the same kind of agility and speed that I saw the week prior against Ohio, but got tripped up. It's just like I haven't seen the wowness out of Jalen Henderson just yet that I feel as if deserves this back and forth pulling Nico Marchiol out of parts of the game to try and get these other quarterbacks involved. I don't know. How do you feel about that, Mountaineer Nation? Also, I feel a whole lot better about the running back room. If Ty Edwards is the guy, keeping him healthy, moving forward for the season, going to be pivotal to sprinkle in some of these other backs, a Sincere Bowers, a Cannon Katzer. If Clay Ash is going to be your second guy, to take that kind of like secondary work, I'm okay with that. And then I think some receivers I think I'm pretty interested in. Is Jeff Weimer out on the outside, getting Justin Smith-Brown? Like I said, Grayson Barnes, Rodney Gallagher really stepped up, and Cam Vaughn, still this team's unquestioned number one wide receiver, and Pitt tried their darndest to try and be after him. The other thing I feel like, even though West Virginia gave up 303 yards to Eli Holstein, there wasn't ever any sort of, like, there were a few, deep shots he completed, but that were just like, oh my gosh, like we saw in 2024 at Acrisure Stadium with Garnet Hollis Jr. and Dantes Fagan. I thought it was a pretty good effort by the West Virginia defense and a secondary, especially the way that they closed onto the ball, came up in run support and stuffing and hitting. Just the way that West Virginia hits, you can tell, is totally different under Zach Alley than it was against Jordan Leslie. This defense now dictates terms. Instead of letting offenses come to you, I think the adjustments that they make, excellent. And again, they've done this all now without Jamori Robinson. I think West Virginia's defensive line was awesome on this day. I mean, anytime, again, you can get 6 sacks in a contest, that's awesome. Tackles, Eddie Vesterinen, what more can you say about the guy? Awesome. Marshawn Oxley, even though called for that pass interference, getting his first sack as a Mountaineer. Reed Carrico was all over the place in this contest, as well as Darian Lewis, who had that interception in the first half, as well as Ben Cutter. So I'm feeling a lot better about this linebacking core. For the way that they've now, stepping up from last week to this week. So, of course, it feels good to play at home when you have the support of your fan base behind you, 60,000 screaming Mountaineer fans in support on a hot, September day, not a kind of cold day in the fall. Sometimes I feel like can kind of, kill your juice or whatever. I don't know. Just playing in the cold different than playing the heat to me. That's just me personally. But so many guys I felt like stepped up on this day. And then, before we close this out, we got to take another 5 seconds because another Panther is down on the field. So even though I want to kind of wrap up this game and I want to, up my tempo to finish it out, we're going to have to wait for this other Panther on the field. So, excuse me. How you feeling, Mountaineer Nation? I see I got a little bit of a raspy voice after using it up yesterday at my own Pushcar Stadium. How do you feel about this? Let me know your comments. Good, bad, everything in between. Am I missing anything? Anything that was that was a turning point in this contest? Were you mad at the decision, kind of like I was in the third quarter of going to the second and third string quarterback options and going away from Nico Marchiol? He's just a winner, as I've said countless times, especially over this past offseason, but previously. The guy just knows how to win. One bad contest, it felt like, last week against Ohio. Didn't look great last year against Cincinnati, as I've said before, but he comes back. He comes back, baby, and leads this team, and his teammates, I feel like, if not by now, hopefully just completely buy into him and support him. And then this defense. Whew. So, love to know your feedback, good, bad, or indifferent. If you've liked this breakdown, please like it so more Mountaineer fans can see it across YouTube. And I'd love to have you subscribe to my channel, crossing the 600 subscriber Rubicon. Thank you to all of those out there who actually have to, care what this guy has to say. I can't believe it. So, thanks for the support. Love having you as a subscriber. And tell your friends, tell your family, and tell your dog that I do this each and every week and have a lot of fun doing it. And we'll be back because there's more I feel like to talk about from this game and kind of the ramifications and bigger picture. So maybe I'll talk about this, talk about that later this week. And then, of course, on Friday, breaking it down, Jayhawks, Mountaineers, WVU on the road at Kansas, starting into week 4, conference play, baby. Here we go. So let's go, spot the ball. Hail West Virginia after a backyard brawl victory, baby. Love it.